Hi. So a fun fact about me is that I have an active interest in etiquette, what are sometimes called the social graces. So how to set various kinds of tables, on what side of a person you should walk or stand when you're walking with them, this sort of thing. Now I'm not super pedantic about this. I don't go around sort of correcting people, but I do think about it enough that I collect and read books about the subject, and I brought just some examples. So one is the fairly well-known Emily Post's Guide to Etiquette. This is actually my father's copy. And the rather more esoteric How to Talk with Practically Anybody About Practically Anything by Barbara Walters. So the politics of etiquette are fairly easy to see. Most of our social customs have origins that are nakedly patriarchal. The obvious example is a man traditionally opens the door for a woman because she isn't strong enough to do it for herself. Now, I think this was maybe plausible in medieval England, where a castle door is just pretty fucking heavy. But since then, clearly not true. And even in medieval England, that's not a universal circumstance. So what I like about etiquette, or my theory of etiquette, as it were, is the total opposite of this. If you strip out all of the politics and the status, what you're left with is this collection of fairly subtle gestures that let you show somebody just that you're thinking about them. So for example, if I open the door for you, it's not because I don't think you can do it, or because I want to establish my status. It's that I desire to pay you this small courtesy. I think that's a good thing. This is my theory, of course, and not everybody shares this theory, and more importantly, it's impossible to know in advance what somebody is going to think of your putative courtesy. And this creates many opportunities for misunderstanding. For example, it's 2008, I'm living in New York, working as an attorney. And I was going on sort of monthly dinners with a friend of mine, let's call her Kagan, who went to law school with me and is also, it's a totally reasonable so Kagan and I went to law school together, and she's also working in New York as an attorney. And Kagan is easily in the top 5 smartest people I have in my life. She is a superlative thinker about the world. Now, until we started going on these monthly dinners, we would always go to some place sort of sceney and hip. I thought that the seating in restaurants was essentially arbitrary. This is not true at all. It's more like valet parking at a casino. So you know they always put the posh cars out front, the Lamborghinis, the limos, and so on, and all the shit cars, or even just the regular cars, go in the back where nobody can see. So a restaurant is also like this, just FYI. All of the beautiful people get sat up in the front, in the window, on display, and everybody else not in the window. So Kagan and I would inevitably find ourselves in these sort of like posh, beautiful people tables, and of course it has nothing to do with me. And this was affirmed when I showed up once early for the reservation, got seated duly at the regular person section, and then Kagan showed up and he just fucking moved us to a better table. So it was on one of these nights, we're sitting at our sort of choice table, and the restaurants are never very big, and the tables are all close together, and so the people next to us are about 4 inches away. So it's obvious that it emerges quickly that they're on a date, and the date is not going very well. And the reason it's not going very well, apparently, is that these people are almost comically mismatched on every discernible level. So imagine there's this woman. She's like amazingly sophisticated and intelligent and so articulate, keen aesthetic sensibility. Just this like impressive, consummate person. Opposite this guy who looks like the early John Mayer. Like baggy trousers, his shirt is untucked, he's wearing sneakers, unclear how he got into the restaurant wearing sneakers. Horrendous mismatch, which is made even worse by the fact that they are talking about politics, apropos. And this woman, who is amazingly articulate and smart, is also very conservative, and she is just bludgeoning this guy and his feeble liberal counterattack. It was like watching a spider get its legs pulled off by a really well-dressed child. And this guy, who's clearly a nice guy, but just totally out of this league. And he's bewildered and confused because his worldview is being taken apart. He just doesn't really understand why. And he also just looks sad because the date isn't going well. He wants the date to go well. This is what I felt. So my heart went out to this man. I want to help this man. So eventually, they finish their sort of main course, and this woman ostensibly gets up to go to the washroom. So I think, I know, etiquette will help this man. Clearly. So I lean over to him, at which point Kagan starts kicking me under the table in her infinite wisdom, foreshadowing terrible events to come. I ignore her. I lean over to this guy. When she comes back, you should stand up. Which, P.S., is a totally unappreciated etiquette gesture, to stand at the table when your date comes or leaves. So lovely, so subtle. So this guy, it takes a while for this guy, who's just beaten down like a boxer in the corner, to sort of realize that some stranger is talking to him from the next table, and also offering this excellent advice. But so he sort of looks over and he's like, yeah, oh, that's a great idea. And his chest puffs up and his shoulder, and he's second wind. He's like, I'm totally gonna do that. Thanks. I was like, yes, absolutely, you should do that. Meanwhile, Kagan has just stopped looking at me entirely, which is her universal symbol for you just fucking screwed up big time. I'm like, how can you not see that I just helped this man? So at this point, the woman returns from her pretend bathroom break, and he stands up like a champ. And she is a little bit confused, and she's like, why are you standing? And he doesn't miss a beat. He's like, because you're here. So good. At which point the woman says, no, it's okay. I just paid the bill. She pretended to go to the bathroom, paid the entire check so they could just leave. Because it was so bad. Now he's fucking standing up to hear that. He bends over a bit, he's stuttering. I, to my total shame, do nothing to come to his rescue. What am I gonna fucking do? I just down, and they stutters, and they eventually leave, and I'm just staring down, and eventually I look up. Kagan is staring at me, totally unimpressed, disappointed, head is shaking. Needless to say, I paid for that dinner. Thank you very much.